When you make a habit out of reading research on queer people, there's a moment that is pretty common. It is the moment when the game was given away. When you're reading a paper and you go, oh, I've been wasting my time. And incredibly, this paper has 4 of them. And I'm not even counting the retracted article written across the front. The first problem is the title. Even if you're unfamiliar with what rapid onset gender dysphoria is or claims to be, those collection of words put next to each other should raise some red flags. But if you are familiar with rapid onset gender dysphoria research, the inclusion of the words parent reports is a larger red flag because it means it is clear that this is just going to be Lisa Lippman's paper again. A problem because Lisa Lippman's paper was the kind of paper to have its title changed and entire conclusion rewritten, because a paper claiming to find a novel form of gender dysphoria should probably rely on more than just parent reports. When you look at how they recruited their participants, in the fact that they didn't. They had a website called Parents of ROGD Kids that existed, and the survey was on it. And the only people that got included in this paper were people that found that website, then filled it out, which, to put it mildly, is a buck wild sampling bias. Even in Lippman's original paper, she just vaguely pulled people off of transphobic websites or gender critical websites. The solicitation to complete the survey was, rapid onset gender dysphoria is a new phenomenon that is now only beginning to be recognized. Sorry guys, they explicitly took that out of her conclusion. Here's a tip for the novices in the crowd. If you're reading a paper and you go, wow, there's a bunch of really weird assumptions in here, and a lot of things that seem to tilt the paper towards a specific endpoint, just Google the author's name. Because you might find out that they're pretty active on Twitter, and you could garner a little insight into why they keep making so many weird assumptions in a row. Now, thinly veiled racism and weird remarks about autogynephilia in the year of our Lord 2024 aside, the real point is you might find the article they wrote about their paper getting retracted. And that might reveal that the participant base was recruited for a blog post and not in an academic manner at all. And the reason that the paper was retracted was because they did not get consent to use these people's information in the paper. It also lets you know that one of the co-authors is using a pseudonym because their child is trans and they don't want them to know that they're doing devastating propaganda against their rights. And lastly, there is the whole reason I made this video. You have table 1, which is blank because they revealed identifying information on the participants in it. But what table 1 is supposed to show is the examples of correspondence that was graded either supported of transgender people or unsupported of transgender people. So any of this bad research that comes out on trans people, they have to take a moment to go, no guys, we swear we're not transphobic. Because like I said, when you read research on queer people, it is fairly common for you to go, oh, just kind of bigoted, can't really do anything with this. There are 2 moments that this paper cites as examples of people not being transphobic. One, Lippman's paper again. And what Lippman did in her paper, she added a questionnaire at the end that was, do trans people deserve the same rights as other people? A question somewhere along those lines, which of course I take issue with because that question is so vague. You can think that, I don't know, trans women shouldn't be allowed into women's shelters and still answer yes, because you believe they deserve the same rights as other men. It also references Abigail Schreier's book, Irreversible Damage, which is not good to be referencing like a pop science book with a handful of interviews in it instead of any academic literature. It also doesn't even like specifically say what in Abigail's book they're citing, which is definitely a choice. because the most interesting thing I got of that book was the detailed recounting of a woman's fall into radicalization against trans people. So, unfortunately, the Wayback Machine got hacked, and now I can't pull up the table anymore. I may have it saved on my computer somewhere, but I know for a fact I have it written down right here. The important context to remember for this table is that it is supposed to be the example on why the participants are not bigoted towards trans people. In the grading of the responses, the email correspondence that they decided was either supportive or unsupportive, I believe they had 70 they rated as supportive and 5 they rated as unsupportive. And in table 1, they let us see 7 supportive responses, and all 5 of the unsupportive ones, they were all just weird Christian stuff. So the positive responses that I would like to read for you now. The LBGQT community's influence is very strong, and their support seems to have no end. I myself am a supporter and have friends in the community, but this has nothing to do with them and is none of their business. It's about me doing what's best for my child. Any discussion of her sex, sexuality, or any gender issues resulted in verbal and physical abuse. She accused us all of homophobia, transphobia, and assorted other bigotry. To be honest, I would love for her to declare she is a lesbian and move on. My brother came out as gay. ... They cut something out. My mom, who's worked in deleted occupation, knows a lot about sexuality. She thinks it's a harmless sexual kink for many men to be treated like a woman, but it does not really mean he is uncomfortable being a man. He just wants to be desired and loved for a specific time, like he thinks a woman is loved and desired. I was just going to leave it there, but apparently I just don't trust anybody to interpret open endings. The problem that I'm pointing at here is that transphobic people are so inundated in their own beliefs about trans people that they cannot even effectively judge their own transphobia, which honestly seems to be pretty typical. As long as people aren't the most explicitly, openly hateful because God said so type of bigot, they believe they're not being a bigot at all.